Hi, and welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. My name is Sean Firmage. I will be your host for this webinar. Before we get started, feel free to participate in the polls we have down at the bottom of your screen. If you have any suggestions of topics you'd like to hear in the future, we'd love to hear those. Also, as a reminder, our next webinar will be this week. It's going to be Thursday, July 17th at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Understanding Naturalization for Genealogists by James Tanner. So that's our next webinar. Today, we will be pleased to hear from James, who will be giving a presentation titled Taking Advantage of Your Smartphone for Genealogy. James has a bachelor's in Spanish and a master's in linguistics from the University of Utah. He received a Juris Doctor degree from Arizona State University. He worked for 39 years as an Arizona trial attorney. He previously owned a retail computer business and an Apple Macintosh software company. James has over 35 years of experience in the genealogical research realm and is a blogger for Genealogy Star and the blog Rejoice and Be Exceeding Glad. He served for 10 years as a missionary at the Mesa, Arizona FamilySearch Library and is currently serving at the BYU Family History Library. He is the co-author or author of over 25 books on genealogical research and has presented at expos and conferences all around the United States and Canada. James has 7 children and 33 grandchildren. And we will go ahead and turn the time over to you, James, to get started.
Howdy, this is James Tanner. We're here again for another BYU or Brigham Young University webinar from the Family History Library here on campus in Provo, Utah. We are reminding everybody that these webinars are recorded and uploaded to our BYU Family History Library YouTube channel on youtube.com. That's Google's YouTube. And we now have over 290 as of the date of this webinar, and I am sure that number will continue to go up and up as we keep adding up to as many as 26 new videos every month. Today we're going to be talking about taking advantage of your smartphone for genealogy, and just so all of you know that I'm not here on the video portion of this, but I am holding my smartphone, so you'll know that this is a valid type of activity that we're getting into here. First thing we need to know, obviously, is what is a smartphone? Why do we call them smart? They're not. They're pretty dumb. But anyway, they are devices that are hooked up to the internet, and they are actually very, very sophisticated computers. In fact, the iPhone that I have presently, it probably is more powerful, has more memory, and can do many more things than any of the computers I used in the first probably 20 years or more that I was using computers. If I'd had this computer, it would have been a marvel of its time back in those days. Nobody would have believed. Well, of course, there wouldn't have been an internet, so it wouldn't have worked, but it would have been marvel to look at anyway, even if it was totally useless. The advantage of that is that most of the activities that we can do on a regular computer, a desktop computer, for example, can be done on a smartphone. There's very few limitations. Most of those limitations are software limitations. They're actually the same capability of a computer as you would buy if you bought a desktop computer with a monitor and a keyboard and all of the things that you needed to work with. So that's what they are. And we're going to talk about this is the formal definition of it, a mobile phone that performs many of the functions of a computer, typically having a touch screen interface, internet access, and an operating system capable of running downloaded applications. Okay, so there's your official word definition of a smartphone. So what are apps? Apps is another one of those computer jargon words that is short for applications. Programs, that's just a word that's developed. Originally, the term app was coined for referring to programs that would run on these mobile devices. these mobile phones. And the reason why they needed a different category for them was because the memory and computer capability of the phones, the smartphones, were extremely limited when they were first released about 8 or 9 years ago. And in that time period, over that interim time period that we've gone through since then, uh, actually, there's two things that have happened. One, the term apps has now been broadened to include all computer applications, whether they run on a computer or not. And secondly, it also is a little bit no longer applicable to mobile devices, because mobile devices, as I just mentioned, have increased in their capacity to the point where they rival many of the desktop computers that we're using. And there's just a lot of apps out there. That's kind of the biggest understatement that you're ever going to hear about. This is the Apple App Store. And the Apple App Store has, I don't remember, millions and millions of apps. I think, no, I didn't. I guess I didn't put in the number in there. But what are apps? Well, they run all sorts of things. If you call on your smartphone, if you have a iPhone or an Android phone or a Microsoft Windows, a Microsoft phone, or any of the other devices out there that are connected to the internet, every time you use that device, you're using an app. So there's a phone app, there's a mail app, there's messaging apps, there's apps to connect to the internet, all sorts of programs that enable you to do things on your smartphone. This is the Google Play Store. They also have millions and millions of these apps. The number of apps out there is so absolutely humongously large that even if you were to look at apps all day long every day and spend only a couple of minutes or 10 seconds looking at each app, you would probably never get through, because there would be more than you could possibly look at by the time you got to the point where you'd looked at what there was when you started. So it's just overwhelming, and that's one of the big problems for most people with apps, is that there's so many that they are sort of overwhelmed. And like most of us, what we end up doing is using the same programs over and over again, the ones we're used to, the ones that we recognize and use. And we may add a new game or a new whatever that we have every once in a while, but by and large, we mostly go back to the same things we're very much familiar with. There's probably easily a million games available for app on these different types of phones. And interestingly enough, I still see people paying the old Microsoft Windows Solitaire all the time. It's the only, one of the original games going back. And so, yeah, we have a tendency to ignore the fact that there's millions of these different applications out there. Now, from a genealogical standpoint, there are quite a few, let's just say quite a few, probably into the hundreds of different apps that are related to the genealogical community. But there's a core of only a few dozen apps that we would ever consider to be useful or would ever show up on anybody's smartphone very frequently. And we'll talk about that. This is the Google Play Store. First one we showed was the Apple App Store, and then there's the Google Play Store. These are the two main outlets for downloading these apps or applications from people who develop them out there. The third place where you can go to get apps, by the way, is the FamilySearch App Gallery. Now, what's happened here with FamilySearch is that they have gathered together a little over 100 different applications that apply directly to genealogical solutions, their genealogical activities. And they're categorized in groups, and you can go in there and have a look at these. Some of them are, of course, free. Some have charges. Some are subscription services. Some are connected to large online databases. Some of them do all sorts of different kinds of things. And that's a little bit of what we're exploring here in this presentation. Okay, so what can I do with my smartphone? Now, I'm going to focus on activities that you can do with your smartphone. We've done other presentations on new applications, new apps that are out there. We've done them on the App Gallery. We have other presentations on those subjects. So what I decided to do here was not necessarily focus on individual programs that you could use, but activities that were supplemented by programs or apps on the smartphone that were integral part of genealogical research or basically what we do as genealogists. So the first off, to note that most of the same things, you can do most of the same things with your smartphone that you can do on any other computer. So the limitations on the smartphone are primarily those things that are pretty obvious. First of all, the size of the screen. Depending on your eyesight, your ability to resolve detail, a small handheld screen is not going to convey a lot of the information that you need to do your work, and that for that reason they are now selling big screens, and some people have two and even three and whatever large screens to work on simply because of the need to have a larger area to do their work. And so this is really one of the biggest limitations. It's just a physical one. Secondly is the operating system. There are two main operating systems out there. There are three. There's also Microsoft, but their position in the overall world of smartphones is very, very small. They have a very, very small percentage. But the two big percentages, the two big players out there are iOS, which is Apple, and Android, which is Google. Now, both of these are not the same as running Apple OS on your Macintosh computer or Windows on your PC. These particular operating systems are different, and they do not have some of the normal basic types of functions that you would basically take for granted if you were working on a desktop computer. And once you understand those limitations, and they only become available, they only become apparent when you are working and trying to resolve some kind of problem that you think, well, I can really do this really quickly on my computer, but I just cannot seem to get it to work on my smartphone. And that is when you start running into these limitations. You never know when that's going to happen, by the way. There's times when you just think that you really should be able to do that, and you can't. Now, over time, the operating systems for both computers, desktop computers, and the mobile devices have been converging. That means that they're becoming more and more the same. And this is especially true with Android because of the Chrome operating system that Google has developed for computers they call Chromebooks, which are connected directly to the internet, and the operating system for Apple, the iOS operating system, which is converging towards the OS operating system. It will probably not be too far in the future when they'll all be running the same operating system, and the physical capabilities of the machines will be the biggest limiting factor. Right now, the operating systems are the limitation. Internal memory is another issue. There is a reason why desktop computers come in a big box. Even if it's in a screen like an iMac, it's still rather large area of territory. It's because the chips themselves, the integrated circuits that are connecting to each other and creating that, take up space, and a hard drive and drive capacities and things like that are taking up physical space. Now, here again, we have what's happening in technology, is that those components, what makes up a computer, are shrinking in size. They continue to shrink at an incredible rate. In fact, it's called Moore's Law. And each year, the capacity well, it's more like 18 months now, 18 to 20 months, but the capacity doubles. And it's been geometrically going like that for years and years. And so now that's why the capabilities of what I hold in my hand are roughly equivalent to what I had on my desktop, say, 5 to 10 years ago. And the interesting thing about this is that as internal memory becomes more and easier to obtain and becomes smaller and more compact, then the capabilities of the smartphones continue to increase. Now, we happen to be at this moment in time, and if you're watching this video during 2017, that's the year that this is going to happen. And that is that there's been another major jump in memory capacity coming out of Intel Corporation, and the amount of memory that's going to be able to be put into a smartphone is going to become vastly greater than what we've had presently, and basically for either the same price or even less price. So this is the kind of thing that's been happening with our technology altogether. The next thing is data programs. Data programs require a lot of space, and that's where the storage and the memory come into play. The computers, in order for the computers to work properly, they need to be able to access data programs in large quantities. Now there's a lot of internal memory on a brand new phone. If you go to buy a phone today, you can buy even expansion memory for them for some of the phones that sell with what they call SD cards, little flash cards that you can put into the device to increase its memory. So memory data programs are also beginning to be able to be run on the smartphones, but that's still one of the limitations that's out there. And then I guess the last one I'd say is it's your own personal tolerance for the device. Um, if you are, in the same condition that I am, hopefully not. But if you are, and you watch younger people on their smartphones and their cell phones and other devices with their typing with their thumbs very quickly, that's something that's physically impossible for me to do. Have never learned how to do it. Even if I learned how to do it, I would be making more mistakes than I would be making correct things. And but there's some technologies, by the way, that are enabling me to start to use these devices as quickly as, or more quickly actually, than a lot of the youth with their fast thumbs. And that is, we have what's called voice recognition software. And now most of the newer smartphones have some kind of VR, voice recognition software, built in. We have the famous Siri on Apple and other types of software built into the programs where I can just speak my whatever I want to and dictate to the smartphone, and it will translate what I have to say. And we always like to sit around and show people how funny what it is, how badly they misinterpreted whatever it was we told the computer to say. So there's some real limitations there too. And so one of the limitations, of course, is whether or not you want to spend. Now, one thing I haven't said anything about, of course, is the cost of these things and the cost of having a data connection to the internet, and that is not an inconsequential consideration here also. Now, interestingly, you can add keyboards to these. Um, the other day, I was watching one of my grandsons, and he had his phone propped up in a little slot in a keyboard, and he was sitting there typing away, and he was writing a script for a video that he was producing on his smartphone. And he had all the apps on his smartphone to create the script, edit the script, take the movies, create the movies on his smartphone, take the movie segments, add the sound, add music, and then edit the whole thing and put it out as a final production. He was doing the whole production of a what you would probably consider to be a professional level video right on his smartphone. So This is the capability is there. It's mainly the idea that we need to accommodate our thinking process to the fact that we might actually want to use this kind of device for that type of use. In other words, do I really want to type on a little keyboard and have it show up on my smartphone when I can't even see the smartphone to start with? But that's another problem, of course. Then we're back to our personal tolerance for these devices. Now, I might have to admit that I got the larger size smartphone now that has the like 5 or 7 inch screen or whatever. It's more like a very large, like a very small tablet rather than a small phone that fits in your pocket easily. But I found it to be more useful for me because of my own physical limitations and being able to put my chunky little fingers down on the little tiny icons and things that I have to look at on the phone. Okay, so how do you use a smartphone? And I'm going to talk about my actual use experience with this. This is not something that I'm saying, oh, you all should do this because of whatever. I am going to discuss things that the way that I use my phone, the way I carry it around and use it in doing research. So first of all, I would think for me, the deal changer here has been taking notes in a library or archive. Now, when I say taking notes, what I see in going to the Family History Library or even here at the BYU Family History Library is I see people sitting there with big notebooks and what I see is these people dragging in suitcases full of documents. I mean, literally suitcases. They don't thousands of 10, maybe 50 pounds of books and notes and records and everything. Well, okay, so what I've done over the year is now I have converted all that to digital files that are online. My phone is basically my connection to all of my research. And then I can take not only that, I can go into the library and where appropriate, where it's allowed, I can take photos of pages and documents. So I don't have to copy out what this particular book says. I take a picture of the title page of the book so I have a reference of where I got the information. And then I go to the page that I need that talks about my ancestor or whatever information that I'm acquiring, and I take a picture of it. Just click away with the smartphone. And then I have all of the documents and all of the pages. And then when I'm sitting at my computer at home or when I'm reviewing my notes or using that information, it's already digitized. It's already on my computer. And then I can already use it. So we can use this to preserve memories. For example, one of the things that one of the statements that photographers make all the time, and the answer to the about photography and what camera should you use and how much money you should spend on a camera. One of the basic camera statements, quotes about cameras is the best camera you can have is the best camera is the one you have when you need to take the picture. So if you don't have a camera, you're out of luck. And what happens when you're unexpectedly visiting a relative and they pull out a scrapbook and you would like to have a copy of the pictures and they won't part with the scrapbook because they're afraid they're going to lose it, and so you are stuck and you can't convince them that you want to take that down to someplace and have it copied with a copying machine, and you're going, oh dear, what'll I do? The answer is you pull out your smartphone and you take pictures of the pages or the individual items that you're interested in, and you have now preserved the memories. You have now captured that information. The answer here is with your smartphone, you're always carrying a camera. You always have one. Now, even now, professional photographers are beginning to use the smartphones to take their professional commercial photography. One of the big online stock photography companies, Adobe, will take photos that go down to 4 megapixels. Well, most of the cameras now are 10 to 12 megapixels cameras. So most most of the newer smartphones will take pictures that they will readily accept for commercial sale. And so it's an interesting phenomenon, and we're in the process also of finding out that cameras are very good for preserving um, information that otherwise would not be able to be recorded. Um, Many times, the archives and libraries will allow you to take photographs where they will not allow you to do scanning, and they will not allow you, and they will then charge you if you want to do physical copies. So, for example, my wife and I went into a big university library one time, and we're looking for some documents from my great grandfather and found them there. They did have them. And I said, well, can I bring in a scanner? And they said, no, we don't allow that. And I said, well, what do you charge for copies? They said, oh, 75 cents a page. And I went, not likely. And then I said, how much, what could I bring in my camera and take pictures? They said, oh, sure, we don't care. You can take pictures with your camera. And so what did we do? We sat there and took pictures with the camera. Now, if I had a smartphone, I could have used that. I wouldn't have had to gone back out to my car and haul my camera in. But the question is, was I getting good enough quality? And the answer is the smartphones now with 10 to 12 megapixels or higher resolution, and some of them are getting much, much higher than that, are uh, perfectly capable of taking the type of images that you will use for your research and your genealogical purposes. Will they be archive quality? No, and you're not going to get archive quality by standing in a library taking pictures of books and things like that. That's not the purpose. The purpose is that you're going to be able to preserve the information that you might otherwise have lost without the smartphone. Now, interestingly enough, when I take a picture with my camera, with my iPhone, for example, or if you had an Android phone, there are a number of programs out there, apps, that will automatically upload those photos to a storage program. Okay, so I can use Google Photos, for example. Google Photos. Uh, if you have a subscription to Google and you're part of the Google, you sign in to Chrome, the Chrome browser, and you're all part of Google, then you investigate this. You'll find out that Google, for a very nominal fee or for free, will store all of your photos online. Everything. So everything I take now, as I click a photo of a page in a library, is automatically uploaded to my Google Photos album. All the storage I have, every one of my photos is stored up there. And by the time I get home from the library, it's already there on my computer. I can already download everything that I copied in the library and have it right there available for me to work on. So basically, I don't have to transfer it. I don't have to plug anything in. I don't have to do anything because that connection goes from my phone to the internet and back from the internet down to my desktop computer when I get home. Then you've got Amazon Prime photos. If you're an Amazon Prime member, if if you buy things on Amazon, and you may want to investigate that. And if you've done Amazon Prime because of music or some other reason, you should investigate their photos. They do the same thing. You can upload everything right to Amazon Photos. And Dropbox has that. Dropbox has unlimited photo capability. You need a Dropbox account, and if you overstep the amount of your storage, you may have to pay for a Dropbox account. So there's not, in some instances, there may be some charges involved here, but what you're paying for is a convenience factor of having those photos, all those notes you take, everything you click on in the library uploaded immediately and available on all your devices. Shutterfly online photo storage is another one. So you have, this is just a sampling of the different online photo storage capability programs that are out there. And here's the zinger here. Be sure to verify the terms and conditions and costs of the storage. Make sure you're not just taking a bunch of photos and then all of a sudden get a bill from the people that that says you pay us X number of dollars for storage. You really need to understand that whether or not it's free to you to use, and that all your photos are going to be stored, and that there's whatever limit there is, that if you are limited in that capacity, like with Dropbox, for example, when they will start kicking in to for a cost once you reach a certain amount of storage, that you may want to manage that storage carefully and take anything out, remove all of the photos that you've taken from the online storage so you can stay within your free capacity there when you're working with them, if that's what you need to do. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about apps, because apps are part of the process of taking photos. And here's an app called JoyFlips that is specifically aimed at the genealogical community, and further is specifically aimed at exactly what I've been talking about, and that is taking photos of photos. In other words, you're going to go take a picture of someone's scrapbook, or you're going to take pictures of your own stack of photos that you have and digitize those photos for uploading online or sharing on a service like FamilySearch.org Memories, or putting them up on Ancestry or MyHeritage or one of the other large websites. So in other words, if you're doing this, you can use a program like JoyFlips to access that directly. Now, what JoyFlips does is, let's go back to that just for a second here, is it will help you, because a lot of problems that you have of getting the picture straight or getting it all within the viewfinder or whatever, that is taken care of by JoyFlips, because they have developed software to help you get that all of the information, all the picture into your screen, and make sure it's preserved properly, rather than the way that some of mine come out, where they're so tilted you can't see them, or I've missed getting the photo, or my hands are shaking and I get it blurred or whatever. So there are some limitations there that may occur, but these are minimized by a program like JoyFlips. Okay, now where are they all going? Where's this stuff going to end up? And basically here, what FamilySearch.org has done is created a free website that will let you store up to 1,000 photos per person, 1,000 photos or memories per person in your family tree for free. And basically the idea here is that they will do that forever. They're not simply, there's no time limit here. They're not going to go out of business, obviously, because they're backed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they are basically allowing you to upload those directly. Now they have an app. It's called the Memories app, and the Memories app, running on your smartphone for Android or iOS, the Apple iPhones, will basically take that information directly into FamilySearch Memories. So not only will it become available, but it'll be available for forever. Now, you may not really want all that in Memories, so that's the reason why I started out with the idea of taking the photos and putting them into some other online storage capability. You can always move them into FamilySearch Memories at a later time, when you've identified the people, when you've processed the information, or whatever it is that you need to do. But in the case where you're taking pictures of taking a series of photos of existing paper photographs or scrapbooks or whatever, then the FamilySearch Memories, you can just take them with your phone and upload them directly to FamilySearch.org. Another thing you can do on your smartphones now is to record oral and video interviews. Now, FamilySearch does not yet take video online, but MyHeritage and some of the other large online programs do take video. So you can take movies with your camera, with your smartphone, and use those to upload to an online place like MyHeritage. But on Family Search, you can do oral interviews, so you can put your oral interviews online. There's a limit, by the way. There's a time limit. The oral time limit allowed by my Family Search, for example, is about 10 to 15 minutes of regular speech type interview. So you may have to break your interview down into segments. Now, you have to remember that with a smartphone, you are linked to the world. So you're not just limited by what you can see and what's available right before you. And so you can use that link to share your genealogy or to do research right on your smartphone. So many people use programs like Facebook and Instagram and other types of programs to share their genealogical information back and forth with their relatives and to talk about what they're doing and the kinds of things that you're able to understand and what they can see almost instantly from what you're doing. So this is almost one of the more important things that you're going to find. Now we're going to get into a little bit more uh, genealogically specific kinds of activities. This is a program called Billion Graves, and Billion Graves runs on a smartphone with an app. And basically the idea here with the Billion Graves app is to use your smartphone that has a GPS. Now the GPS, the geopositioning system, is what you use to figure out where you are on Google Maps or on other mapping programs on your phones. But you use that same technology to locate graves. So here's the process. I take my smartphone, which is an iPhone in this case, or an Android phone would work just fine too, as long as it has GPS, and I find a cemetery. I go into that cemetery and I use the phone to take pictures of the grave markers, every grave marker, one after another. And as I do that, if I'm using the Billion Graves app, those pictures of the graves markers are automatically uploaded to the billiongraves.com database online. I can later go back when I have a keyboard and transcribe those uh, grave markers, the information that's on those grave markers. And what has happened then is that the program will put that information into a map, and the map will show you exactly where each of those graves are. So, and now let's do the other part of it. Let's say someone has already mapped the cemetery where you are. Um, let's say in some the not too distant past, our family went up to the Salt Lake City Cemetery up on the hill above Salt Lake City, Utah, and went to see where my grandparents and some of my other relatives and my wife's relatives are buried. Now, uh, normally, if we were doing this only occasionally, it's a very large cemetery, and we would have to go to the sexton's office and get a map, and then they would tell us to remind us how to get to the graves, and we would then try to figure out where we are. But now we're up there, and we think, well, who else is buried up here? Well, of course, Aunt so and so, and my other grandfather was buried here, and so forth and so on. And so, but where are these? Well, we're going to take a trip back down to the sexton's office on Memorial Day and try and figure out. Actually, in Salt Lake, you'd be standing in line waiting to get some information about where your ancestors were buried. But basically, with a smartphone and Billion Graves, you simply have to go in and search for the name, and then the program will bring up a map with a little dot, a little marker showing you where the grave is, and then it'll show you where you are on Google Maps with a blue dot, and you just simply have to walk until your dot is over the grave. And I've done that, and basically watching where I was walking sort of carefully, but also watching where my little dot was on the Billion Graves map. And when they're on top of each other, look down and there's the grave. And so, it's an amazing kind of technology for identifying and helping you get around, especially in very, very large cemeteries. Now, it's become a very important thing to some people. One of my close relatives is very much involved in taking pictures of grave markers, and right now is running up close to I think he's second in the world right now for the number of graves that he's uh, taken pictures of, 4 billion graves. Uh, so there are people out there taking pictures constantly, and these are, it's a very, very valuable piece of information to be able to find those grave markers. Now, part of that is another program that's now available on your smartphone. It's called the Family Nexus. And what the Family Nexus does, it's a rather new program, but once again, it uses information from the FamilySearch family tree. So if you have your genealogical information in the free program from FamilySearch called the Family Tree, then you can use the Family Nexus. Now it has a free version, and then there's a subscription version. And by the way, I should mention that about Billion Graves, that there is a free version of Billion Graves, and then there is a more advanced, I guess, professional version or more advanced version of the program that has a fee. So some of these have introductory free versions with fee-based advanced versions of the program. But the Family Nexus is interesting because if you upload your information from the FamilySearch family tree, first 4, 5, 6 generations or whatever, into your smartphone, and then depending on where you are in the country, you pull up a map and it shows you where you are, of course, which is the technology that's available from Google Maps and Apple Maps and all the other programs. But it also shows you and marks all of the events that occurred in all of your ancestors' lives. So as you're driving around, so if I pull up, for example, sitting here in Provo, if I pull up my family from the family tree on the Family Nexus, it shows me all of my relatives, where they're buried, where they got married, where they lived. Any information that's been preserved by Family Search will show up on your Family Nexus app on your smartphone. So basically this one works now with iPhones, and I would assume that in the future it will probably be expanded to Android. But right now this is a very interesting way to get some information. So it links the FamilySearch.org family tree, and you see a map of your ancestors' events, but it's in real time. So you can drive around and see where they are, and it'll just keep changing as you move. Then it'll keep showing you the new people in that area. Very valuable if you go on a vacation and you're wondering, I wonder if any of my relatives lived around here. You can pull that out in a few seconds. You can see where some of those people lived. Okay. Now, this is a different type of use of the smartphone, and that is if you are using your computer to keep notes and to maintain your database, then you can use the smartphone as a window or access to all that information. So, for example, I will do a running list of all of the research that I need to do for a specific research project, and that narrative and all of the information and all of the microfilms I need to look at, and the status of whether I've ordered the microfilm, whether it's in the library, whether it's not in the library, where the information could be located, and what I need to look at when I go to Salt Lake City and go into the library, etc. Each of those types of things are all on my smartphone because I keep them on Google Docs, and Google Docs and Google Drive are essentially free storage places. Now, free means free only as much as they have, up to the limit of whatever they have for free. But the cost of expanding that is it's not insignificant, but it's basically a part of doing business as a researcher, and it's far less expensive than the time lost in trying to carry around that suitcase of documents that I talked about a moment ago. So what we're looking at here is automatic record keeping between documents, between devices, excuse me. And so if I put in, as I'm sitting at home on my main computer, and I enter in all of the information that I've gathered about a specific ancestor and address all of the issues that I'm trying to resolve, and then once I click on that document and store it up online in Google Docs, then that is totally available. Uh, and as in another place, for example, and I already mentioned that, is if I'm taking photos of a document that is um, in a book or some document that I run across. In fact, I actually, to sometimes, if I don't have access directly to a digital microfilm viewer, like those that we have here in the Brigham Young University Family History Library, then I will use my smartphone to take pictures of the microfilm images and save myself the copy costs that I might have to pay if I were to do that. Okay, so now I would just have to say that the days of hauling a suitcase full of documents to the library are basically over. Uh, there's quite a few people, apparently, if you watch the people come into the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, you would think that that was sort of mandatory thing that you'd be dragging this huge suitcase into the library because they all seem to be doing that. And I have to admit that I'm carrying a backpack, when I go into the library, but it's not full of papers and books. It's full of computers. And I haul my laptop computer into the library. I'm using my smartphone to take the photos, but I'm using my computer simply because I'm sitting there typing and analyzing and entering bibliographic information and other things that need to be recorded into the computer, and it's just more convenient to use a laptop than it is to. Now, the question is, why don't I use a keyboard with my iOS device? Well, this is where the divide came from. I actually did use an iOS device. I used an iPad Pro for over a year. And then I found that there was a residual amount of things, particularly having to do with images and photos, that were very awkward. They could be done with an iOS device, but it was taking me so long that I was losing the incentive of preserving the information. And so I went back to using a laptop. From using an iPad. Now, that's just me personally. Many people are still getting along just great with their iPads and a keyboard. And even now, as I mentioned with one of my grandsons, he has a keyboard for his smartphone. So here's the flow. The flow is you're looking at the document. You capture the document with your smartphone. It goes online, and the from the online storage, it goes directly to your home computer. So you're basically creating, putting that in a position, putting anything you take a picture of or anything you record on your phone, it becomes instantly available, depending on the speed of the internet, however, but that's instantly if you're sitting in a library. By the time you get home, everything's on your home computer. So that, there are places of the world where that may not occur, but primarily in the United States, most of the connections would get you that information. Now, one of the limitations you're going to have, obviously, is if I go down to the second level basement at the Family History Library in Salt Lake, I have no reception at all. I've got nothing. I have no information on my computer at all. In addition, my smartphone, I have no way to get to the internet. Well, they do have Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi enables me, here in the library at BYU, I can turn on the Wi-Fi connection to the BYU free Wi-Fi, and I connect completely to the internet. However, in the Family History Library, there are some limitations on the Wi-Fi connection that don't exist here at BYU. So you have to live within the reality of it. Now, the other part of this about your smartphone is so you can keep your entire family tree online. Okay, so I have my family tree on these 4 programs for the reason of being able to get their record hints and take advantage of their databases and do searching and find all the information that I need. And it just makes it easier in the long run to have all that information out there on each of the programs. Um, and then the question comes up, of course, of how do we synchronize that information? And the answer is, well, I do synchronize the information that I am presently researching. I don't try to keep up the entire tree, but I try to maintain that area where my interest lies, so I can get the information that I need. But so we have these 4 programs out there, and now I can be any place and I can access any one of these 4 programs through their own apps, by the way. Each of them have an app that will directly connect with their program with Ancestry, Find My Past, My Heritage, or Family Search, Family Tree. And you view all of the information that you have and all of the attachments and all of the notes and sources and everything else that you've made right on your smartphone. So that makes it unnecessary. Another reason why it makes it unnecessary to haul a suitcase full of information into the library. Here's some background. Here's the Family Search apps. Here's the Memories apps that I mentioned a moment ago that let you upload photos and pictures of documents and whatever directly to the Memories portion at FamilySearch.org. There's Family Search Family Tree on Android and on iPhone and iPad, on the iOS operating system, that lets you look at your family tree online and do almost all of the functions of the family tree. And we'll also there's also an app called Place Research, which gets into the standardized place listings that are available on the Family Search Family Tree. I might mention that there are now 3 different versions of the family tree available on mobile devices. And I just watched my wife today, Ann Tanner, put up to finish a presentation on the differences of those 3 different online family trees. So if you wait a couple of weeks, we may get that up after she's given that presentation to the staff, missionaries, and volunteers here at the BYU Family History Library. Here's some other online family tree apps. Of course, there's Ancestry has theirs. My Heritage has their Family Tree Builder program. They have a Find My Past app. There's one for GennyNet. There's one for My Heritage. The regular connection to the web. So there's all sorts of programs out there that connect directly to these large online databases. Now, if you want to keep in touch with people, that's an essential part of genealogy. We have a whole bunch of social networking programs out there, and you may have some, everyone I think has some very polarized views about social networking. You either are living in the middle of it, or you resent it or tolerate it, or whatever other particular attitude you have towards it. But and the reality is it's all out there, and you can find a tremendous amount of information about genealogy in all of these different venues. You have Facebook, you have Messenger, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. There's a whole lot more out there besides these, but this was my representative sample of what what represented social networking, which of course is part of working with smartphone. Now, we recently, as a family, had a very large, from our family, all of our 7 children and 33 grandchildren, as they always introduce this thing with, got together, all of them that were available. There were a few that couldn't quite make it, but of those that were there, the majority were there, and sometimes we had between 45 and 50 people available together. And this whole thing, this whole family reunion, which took place over a period of a couple of weeks actually, was coordinated by social media and by texting and by posting a schedule, an interactive shared schedule online that we could access through our phones, and we coordinated all the activities back and forth with our smartphones and kept the whole thing going. So once you get into that kind of mode, then you begin to see the value of having this kind of communication device. Uh, One note here, you need to back up your smartphone, and you can use the Wi-Fi to back it up to your computer. Uh, and there's software capabilities. All of them have a way to do this. All of the Android and iOS, Apple iOS devices. Um, you can back up to online storage programs, like I've already mentioned about photographs and Google Docs and Google Photos and some of the other programs out there. And then you can back up to an SD drive if your smartphone supports an SD drive. Now, for example, my iPhone does not support an SD drive. It does not have a slot anyplace around the iPhone. But I can plug a adapter into the bottom of my smartphone and of my iPhone, and using that adapter, I can plug in an SD card and back up all of my photos. Now, it doesn't back up any of the data, but it just does back up photos. So there's limitations for some of the devices that others do not have those limitations, and so that's another consideration that we have to look at. And I would guess I would encourage you to explore and expand. In other words, look at your smartphone as a very sophisticated tool that is part of your genealogical genealogical reality, and that there are ways to use some of the programs that may not be labeled genealogy, but may be are integral part of your use. For example, and I'm kind of beating this to death in a sense, but the camera does not say genealogy camera on it. It just says camera. But we can use it for a variety of genealogical purposes, recording family members, uh, all sorts of things out there. And it doesn't say anything on there about the camera being a tool for recording and preserving grave marker information, but that's what it can be used for. So there's all sorts of information and ways that the camera will be, the program will develop. At any given day, for example, I counted them up on my computer. There are millions and millions of apps out there, and I think I ended up with a few dozen on my phone, not that many on my phone. And out of those, I probably use, but I use actually within an average day, I probably use about 20 to 25 apps. It just consistently, I'm always surprised when I shut down everything. You know, there's a way to close all my apps, and I'm always amazed that I've got like 30 of them open, and I think, well, I didn't realize I was using all those. But it's interesting how the having them available then becomes part of the way that we're integrating into doing genealogy. And so I think that, you know, we need to be in the mode of exploring and expanding our horizons as far as what is and what's not useful. So we'd like to thank you for watching. And this concludes another BYU Family History Library YouTube video. And encourage you to look at our BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, where we have hundreds now of additional videos. And watch for this one, will be put up shortly. And if you take the time, you can subscribe. And I encourage you to subscribe, not because subscription is going to help your life in any way, but it does help the BYU Family History Library to gain visibility and perhaps even some notoriety on on YouTube, where that's impossible, swimming upstream against cats and dogs and things like that. But that's the way it goes. Thanks again for watching.